This is day 6 of the August 93 7-day retreat in Springwater. Most questions in meetings have concerned this me. What is it? What is its reality or unreality? Can it be improved? Can it change? Can it be healed? And then there has also been a persistent question of what is love and compassion? Can the me be loving and compassionate or become so? Just this morning there was another question to this effect. It is so hard to convince myself that I'm just an image. There seems to be more to me than that. Something more real than thought and image. We're not denying the reality of an image or a thought. A reality which is directly perceivable, an image arising about myself. How good I am or how poor I am, what a success or what a failure. An image arising of that nature can be seen if not felt. Maybe the idea arising escaped the attention, but the soaring of good feelings about triggered at the thought of being successful, or the deflation of energy experienced at the thought of being a failure, that is very palpable. Is that why we feel that there's more to us, to the reality of me, than just imagery and thought and ideas and memories? Because what they trigger is so palpable throughout this whole organism we call me or mine. We have talked about it all week, approached it from many different sides, and many people have observed that connection between a thought of what will happen to me tomorrow when I get home, and good or anxious or whatever feelings manifesting in the body, different areas or throughout, actually with an increasing sensitivity to the body. It is noticeable that there is no separate areas or organ. It all hangs together. It's interconnected. When the heart beats faster with some frightening thought about what may happen to me, the whole body feels frightened, is how we say it. The whole body manifests what we call fear or anxiety. And the concreteness of that feeling seems to give concreteness to the image of me. Coming back to a person who's saying, it's so hard to convince myself that I'm an image, a thought. And obviously, this body, these thighs, the buttocks, the arms gesticulating, the voice talking, ears listening, the mouth, the head, heart beating, throbbing, breathing in and out, supporting the voice, all of that is what it is. And it can exist and function and interrelate very well without imagining itself or thinking about itself in certain judgmental or evaluative terms. The reason that we're so attached to the images is that this is all we know, the idea of ourselves. We have very little experience, conscious, aware experience of a body functioning beautifully without thinking about itself as this or that. As a matter of fact, it seems to flow and operate and move much more freely, organically, if you will. Uninhibitedly, unconstrainedly, and I don't mean lashing out against other people, that comes from image and memory. It functions so more gracefully when it is not blocked and detained, hindered by all the ideas we have about ourselves and how other people see us and conceive of us. This self-consciousness that so many of us have suffered from so long, since early childhood. Not too early. Little children are not yet self-conscious. That's why they have that grace, and it's such a beautiful thing to watch them in their unself-consciousness and spontaneity. But as we grow up and become identified with the idea of ourselves, and not just the idea, but a value attached, this is the way to be good, this is the way to be bad, being told what we are, compared with others, and living by that imagery, that whole network which I've called the story of our life, we become self-conscious. Our movements lose their spontaneity and naturalness. We try maybe to present something, pretend we are something, or try to hide our body, curve our shoulders, stoop the back. Under the thought and idea of what we are, good or bad, desirable or undesirable, lovable or to be rejected. All of that imagery that is built up in this body-mind from very, very early times has a profound forming effect upon this body, so that our body manifests our thoughts about ourselves and the thoughts that we have imbibed from others about ourselves. And what is said right now is not something to accept, to buy, but to begin observing more and more, to illumine this functioning of the mind in image and thought about myself and its effects on this whole physique, on the expression of the face and body, on the body language, on the way we interrelate, which is not easy at first. We're really not sensitive and sensitized to that. We're educated to manifest this image, to be brave or to be this way or that way, and to incorporate, to be good actors without being told that it is just acting. Acting, I mean like on a stage, performing roles. Somebody in a recent retreat abroad told me, coming from a family of 9 children, she says, as I think back, each child had a role to perform in that family. From early on, as she remembers, and still now and was perceived to be this way and talked about and approached in that role, cast into it by each other. And as she was telling about her sisters and brothers now, and herself still performing these roles, and herself just now beginning to question all of that, and whether that has to continue, whether this is what one is, the role cast into since early childhood. Which is a combination of thought, image, behavior, response, interrelationship, based on idea, imagery. So, we have touched a little bit about this, that has come up too. What is self-consciousness? The desire to produce oneself in front of others or to hide from others. Doesn't it always have to do somewhere, hidden or not so hidden, and in all cases ultimately observable, of how we think about ourselves and what we want to do with ourselves in front of other people, what we want to represent, or what we are afraid we may be seen as. Someone asked a question, I do not hold it properly in memory, and we also agreed we'd talk about it at some other time. It was just broached very quickly. But what the person said was something like this: it is somehow produces an irritation in me when I hear you say that our perceptions are colored by memory, by our past. I may not quote it correctly, but it's worth looking at, whether it's a correct quotation or not. First of all, the irritation that this produces, and there one can always open it up and says, why? Say, why am I irritated when someone says perceptions are clouded by memories, by ideas, which all stem from the past, maybe the past moment, or the past 40, 50, 60 years, and the past including all the ages of our forefathers and mothers, because all of their input carried on, producing this result that is sitting here. But taking maybe a simple, observable example, if there is the idea existing in this organism that people are against me, that they have it in for me, they don't like me, they want to take advantage of me, or are just plain against me, what we call paranoia. If there is this feeling, people are against me, won't I perceive people in that way? Will this strong conviction, which stems from memories and experiences remembered correctly or incorrectly from the past, won't that color the perception right now of myself as a victim of persecution by others? People trying to do me in, or do me wrong, or keep me down, not like me, reject me. Isn't it very likely, and please let's observe it, because we are all under these spells at times, some of us more than others. Isn't it very likely that this strong conviction will color how we perceive people around us? And the fact that we believe this also colors our own appearance, our countenance, our face, our actions. So that maybe there is some dynamic between the victim and the victimizer. When Kyle was a school principal, he had to hear a lot of complaints from children or their parents that they were picked on by other kids, maybe going from school, returning from school. And he made it a practice to watch these children as they were leaving school, before they were picked on, and he could already, in many cases, detect a provocative way in their demeanor, waiting to be victimized, waiting to be jumped upon, provoking it, challenging it in very subtle ways. But that's not easy to make clear somebody, that it may just remain on the thought and intellectual level. How can a child perceive that this is going on in himself, herself? That takes awareness and insight. Likewise, if having grown up with the idea that I'm very likable and lovable, and people are too, a lot of them are very nice, and they like me, I like them, this will express itself in one's facial expressions and body language, and one will see people more likely to be that way. Nothing of this is all the time, but just to have something to observe the truth or falseness of the statement that our perceptions are colored by our ideas about ourselves and each other. And not just our perceptions, but our whole body is affected by the way we think about ourselves. Now, there is a body image for all existing, for all human beings. Fairly accurate, because as neurologists tell us, without the existence of that body image, sort of imaging and knowing where the toes are, where the elbow is, the head and so forth, and how they move, without the existence and feedback from that body image, we would not be able to move in a coordinated way. And the proof for that was a first case that happened to a neurologist. It's reported in a very interesting book. Sachs, this is his name, Oliver Sachs. A woman who mistook her husband for a hat, or his wife for a hat. Man who was who would ever. Some colored perceptions here. I don't know. A woman waking up and no way to get out of bed, no way of imaging where she was, what her leg was, her arm, her body, incapable of coordinating any kind of functional movement. And the body image process never healed, but being an intelligent and determined woman, she learned with hard work and a lot of willpower to establish new visual cues to be able to function. Not 100%. And she also reports of the additional difficulties of maybe trying to climb into a bus and people being very impatient and abusive in their language about her not moving a little bit faster, taking so much space or so much time. So, sitting here right now, is there a body image of someone sitting here? Where the head is, the fingers, the hands, elbows, the legs resting on the mat, or the buttocks on the mat or chair. Is there? Maybe one has never sort of consciously perceived it. Or one has already got an idea that this, I shouldn't have this. Thank God it's there. And that body image is fairly accurate enough to function in a coordinated way and moving about. And is there already more to this body image than this fair approximation to the way we're really built? Everyone probably knows looking in the mirror and thinking, oh my God, is that how I look? It happens to you particularly if you're aging, but we always think we're aging. Even people in their late 20s think they're aging. Only the little children, they want to age. They want to look older. Isn't there something more than a fair approximation to the way we do look? Isn't there also judgment about how we look, how we would rather look, or how we want to be seen as we look right now? Can all of that be observed? You could say, well, so what? So I observe it. But this body image, or this image of ourselves, not just the looks of it, but its qualities, its importance or unimportance, has a powerful effect on how we interrelate with each other and how we get hurt if the interrelationship is not the way we want it to be. If you do not treat me the way it conforms and accords to my image of how I should be treated, which dates far back, the hurts from not being talked to in a nice way, to be being humiliated or put down. Those hurts are ancient. And they still operate when you talk to me in a certain way, not the way I want to be talked to, which is idea, memory, image. And the power of the drive to be important, how it can generate immense energies to be climbing on the career ladder. Whether it is business or government or artistic performance or religious, the desire to represent importance, the image of an important person, can be an incredible mobilizer of energy to manifest that importance. And it is an insatiable desire. Because there's always somebody who may be a little bit more important than I am, or may seem to be. So that one has to be surpassed, and that one, and that one. So not to underestimate the power of the image to mobilize energies. That's what also makes it so real. Because the energies are palpable, and the accomplishments, the successes, advancements are also real. And the way people treat one as one advances. All masquerading, all imagery with their powers and physical manifestations masquerading for a real thing is a limited reality. And that image punctured, what happens? Punctured by someone. Like the emperor's clothes. A little boy saying, the emperor is naked, he doesn't have anything on. Well, in that story, the boy wasn't shot. I forget now whether he became the next minister of clothing or something. All the others fired. But we all have plenty of experiences where our image is punctured, hurt, negated, not accepted, put down, compared. And what sets into motion? Observe it. It's observable. And it's interesting. And it's illuminating how just like the President of the United States is surrounded by security to maintain his health and life, so our image is surrounded by security, more thoughts to keep the image protected, defended, and in place. So it's a thought system of imagery about myself connected with a security system to keep this image going and to defend it against attack. Sounds very abstract and out there, but it's observable within. Because why do we immediately get reactive and defensive when someone says something critical about us? Or we don't hear it at all, we tune out. Is this the fear of hurt, the image being punctured, deflated? And is that fear founded on the fact that this whole body and life is identified with the life of the image? As though hurting the image was hurting or injuring this whole organism. This is how it feels. See, that's the tricky thing. Because as we said, every thought is answered and accompanied in the body. So if there is hurtful thought about what happened to me, the body hurts. And then the body tries to protect itself, again through thought and image and language, saying, this is not how I am, or you're like that too, or whatever we quickly say, to ward off the danger to our image, which we think is danger to ourselves, to our life, and survival. So is it a wonder that relationship is so difficult? Because everyone is surrounded by security guards? There was an abomination I read, if the story is correct or not, to a new president, to find security guards everywhere, even peeping into his bedroom. Not being able to jog over to McDonald's and have a hamburger. Who would want to live this way, we say. And yet we do live this way on a certain level of instantly defending, protecting, attacking. When not I am injured, but my image, and the body hurts. And that hurt, as we elaborated in many meetings together, dating far back to earliest trauma of being hurt, humiliated, maybe actually hurt, punished, beaten by a parent, ostracized into the room, and told that one is bad, and one can come out when one is good. And then either beginning to nourish and foster this image of being good, manifesting goodness to the parent for safety, or rebellious against being forced and pushed around and fostering the image of a rebel. Of course, a child doesn't have the image of a rebel, but whatever image it has. Doing his own thing, her own thing. Taking punishment. Sulk. Be moody, not smile. I grew up with a brother like that, whose defense was to sulk, not to talk, to be in sort of stubborn. That's what he was, all the things he was told. And I had such a direct line with him. He wasn't all of that. But he grew to think of himself this way and manifest that behavior, to punish the parents back. And it is punishment for a parent if a child doesn't smile at him or her, but is stubborn. Not very amenable to controls and so forth. And so we grow up to defend what we think we are, and to resist anyone trying to convince us that we're not that, or even facts showing us it's not like that. We resist it because we're attached to our image. That's me, it's my life, and the whole body is programmed to survive, and unfortunately the brain does not distinguish between what is the survival of this body and what is the survival of the image. And it's hard to distinguish it because of the incredible internetworking of imagery, thought, and bodily manifestations, even body growth, body form. Affected and influenced and conforming to the image. So then yesterday someone quite late in a group asked, in trying to better ourselves, improve ourselves, heal ourselves, is it this me that we're trying to improve, heal, better, adjust? And a lot of our efforts are to that effect, aren't they? We want to have a better personality and a better image of ourselves. There are therapies which help you to develop a positive self-image. Not just therapies, there's a tremendous offering, a tremendous market of tapes to improve your image. I've even read in one catalog a special tape for your 8-year-old. Play it at the time he goes to bed, and he will wake up with a better self-image. But as we looked at and maybe can all test out and confirm for ourselves, a good image is as unstable as a bad one. It needs constant R&M, which is repair and maintenance. And propping up and defending. The security system is indispensable. So does it make sense in looking at things like this and also verifying for oneself that it is not just a storyline that we're given? One has to test out and find out, discover the truth of this, whether it is really so in oneself. But already with an insight into the image, and that the image is indeed an image, an idea about ourselves, comes a momentary lightening, because insight is not determined by the past. It is not mechanical. It is not an image. It's nothing but light. Light in the sense not of fireworks. Seeing what is so. Not thinking something is so, but seeing that something is so. Seeing an image as an image. And it brings a tremendous burst of relief and energy at that moment. It may not last. That doesn't matter how long it lasts, but that for the first time, image and thought is seen for that is a very significant thing in our lives. where there's for such a long time no distinction about what is reality and thought. I remember one time we were still holding retreat at the lake. And I was using what somebody had said, a question or some comment, in the talk. And this person came into a private meeting later on and said, you know, when you said that today, I was not only embarrassed, but I also felt betrayed by you, by saying that. And my heart just sank. I felt terrible. I started to apologizing, and he broke out into a roaring laughter. He said, it's all image. I was one step behind him. In other words, first embarrassment, then feeling betrayal and hurt, and then some insight into the whole thing. What is betrayed? What is hurt? What is embarrassed? And with this insight, walking lighter without an image for a moment, and maybe seeing it again and again and over, and learning about it, and shifting from taking as something for so real and so important and so serious and so in need of defense to such a burden that is not necessary for living freely and affectionately. So, there's not much time left in this talk, and tomorrow we will do readings. But I don't want to completely leave out this question. It came persistently from several people of what is love? What is compassion? We talked about it in several meetings. Last night, I think, was one. Somebody asking, does sorrow and love have any relationship with each other? And one person saying, as long as I'm not in touch with my sorrow, how can I love? Or be compassionate? And maybe we can amplify it and say, can we be in touch not just with our personal sorrow, but with sorrow? Sorrow which is inundating human beings all over this globe. It is real. It is not just a television image or a news report. It is so. One can go far with a camera, and what is revealed is sorrow. One can be very close to home, maybe inside the home, maybe inside oneself, and there's deep sorrow. About not being what one would like to be, about not being related to whom one would like to be related, being lonely, left, unappreciated. a heavy childhood that still seems to manifest all the time, and the imprisonment of all of that, and the inability, the seeming inability to get out, to step out of the prison. And in touching it in oneself, it becomes so clear, so evident that this is how we live as human beings, with great sorrow. Because we yesterday, and I don't want to go through the whole thing once more, differentiated between suffering and sorrow. Sorrow being the given facts of our existence. Suffering meaning the storyline that thought creates about it. And then our reactions and caught upness in the story much more than in the actual facts, which have sort of receded into the background. In the foreground is the story, and from that I suffer. And as long as there is this suffering from the way I think and talk to myself about myself, my lot, my fate, or the fate of human beings, can there be love and compassion? Can there be love and compassion without insight into all of that imprisonment by our thoughts and habits and systems of defense and attack? One person mentioned that when there was an insight into all the effort being made and a letting go of it, there was an urge to turn around and face the room before there was no concern with the rest of the people. Maybe they weren't even there. And now a turning toward each other. Is that what happens with insight into all the stuff that hides us from ourselves? Ourselves not being image and idea and storyline, but what? Try to find for this me, this self. Look for it. Dig for it if you need to and must. And the more you look and the more you dig and inquire and wonder and open up, the less there is. The less there is inside. I've never found a soul. But the crickets are chirping very brightly. And the breathing is very clear. Not just one breathing, but breathing of human beings. Their presence. And the sky covering it all, and the earth on which we live. Maybe so as not to keep using these so overused words of love and compassion, just to say, turning toward everything, but not as me, as everyone, everything, which is there, breathing right now, alive. We will end here for today.